So cool. Let me open my notepad. Okay, so today I'm going to discuss about a concept called Azure Load Balancer. Okay, so Azure Load Balancer is also one of the PaaS service. Okay, so why do we use the load balancer and what is the advantage of load balancers? Okay, let's quickly discuss about it now. And let's say, for example, till now we have seen, right? Okay, if at all if you wanted to host a website, okay, any website, okay, so what are the options we have seen? The first option we have seen creating the VM and using the web server, enabling the web server, and within a web server we are hosting some sample website. This we have seen in the very beginning, right? If you recall, we have created a Windows machine and then later we have enabled the web server called IIS. On top of this IIS web server, we can host a sample website and we can have our application. Similarly, we have seen, okay, this is a IaaS solution, that is infrastructure as a solution. And I think, okay, we have also seen, okay, web app. I think this is the last of our last topic. So that is web app services. Okay, as part of it, okay, we discussed about the web app, right? So creating a web app and hosting a sample ASP.NET application we have seen. So let's say if you host an application, either it could be IaaS solution on top of VM or maybe any app service that is web app. So if at all if you wanted to provide a high availability and security for your application, okay, let's say for example, I'll open my paint. Okay, so imagine that, okay, so this is your application. Okay, let's say you might have hosted on a web app or maybe like on a VM. Okay, so this is something like let's say abcd.com. Okay, so if the any users try to access this website, okay, what will happen certain a period of time? Okay, so sometimes, okay, this server might not respond. Or let's say for example, you need some more more number of servers, okay, to manage your incoming traffic, right? So in those scenarios, okay, so to provide a high availability for your web application, okay, let's say for example, I'll take one more scenario here. There are 100 people are accessing this website called abcd.com, and the server what I have it here, okay, so can manage only up to 50 users. Let's say I have hosted my web application on two servers. Let's imagine that. Okay, I have hosted my application on two servers. Okay, each server can manage only 50 users traffic. Let's imagine that. Okay, so now if all of sudden if this 100 users, okay, try to access my website called abcd.com, if this topic is routed to the one single server, what will happen? End user will get a latency issues. Okay, so they will get the response like this website is still loading kind of thing. Okay, to provide the high availability and to distribute your traffic, okay, we use the load balancer. So what we can do is on top of these two servers, okay, where your application is up and running, we can keep a one load balancer, and that load balancer will distribute the traffic. Okay, so by keeping certain algorithms. Okay, so it will we have a certain algorithms. Okay, so it will check the health status of the server and it will check the traffic and it will check the some remaining things. And if this particular server is not responding, okay, it will route the traffic to the another server. So this is the concept of the load balancing. What it does is, okay, it will distribute the incoming traffic to the multiple healthy backend pools. Okay, and this way, okay, so we can provide a high availability and as okay, so we can provide a high availability for your web applications. Okay, it could be hosted on a web apps or it could be hosted on a anything. All right, so that is the advantage of having this load balancer. So let me quickly walk you through the documentation. Okay, so I'll say Azure load balancer docs. Okay, let me go to the load balancer documentation here. I'll go to the overview first and here you could see. Okay, so load balancing refers to event distributing load, that is incoming network traffic across the group of backend server resources. Okay, so these are the backend resources. So what it does is, okay, it will distribute the incoming traffic to the multiple servers. Let's say if your abcd.com website is running on this particular two servers, let's imagine server A and server B, it will equally distribute the traffic, incoming traffic. Let's imagine this is a load balancer. Okay, so having the load balancer, okay, we'll discuss about the some of the advantages now, and on which OSL layers, okay, this particular load balancer will run. Okay, everything we'll discuss. Okay, so here you could see, so this is the load balancer symbol. Okay, so let's say for example, if you have a group of web servers, okay, if you have hosted a any application on top of these three VMs, and if somebody try to access your website, okay, it will equally distribute the traffic based on certain conditions. Okay, we'll discuss about those conditions now. And here we have a two types of load balancers. One is public load balancer, and one more is like a internal load balancer. So public load balancer, we use it for the public facing portals, and whereas internal load balancer, we use it for the backend databases. Let's say for example, your application has a database in the backend, and from your application to the database, if you wanted to route the traffic, okay, we use the internal load balancer. Okay, so we'll discuss about these two also in detail, that is public load balancer as well as the internal load balancer. Okay, you can go through the some of the why do we use the load balancer. Okay, both internal external. Okay, as we seen, okay, it will increase the availability of distributing the resources within or across the zones. Okay, and these are the some of the health probes. Okay, port forwarding, these are the additional configurations we can perform. So we're going to discuss about them in detail now. Okay, so if at all, if you want to see how you can create a load balancer, here you could see you can go ahead and create a load balancer. Okay, this I'm going to walk you through now. Okay, to show you a demo for today, okay, what I'm going to do is, okay, so let's say, okay, I'll take this same example here. Let's say this is the load balancer. Okay, so this is the load balancer. Okay, so I'm just I'll create two Windows VMs. Okay, and I will add those two VMs as a backend pool of my load balancer, and we'll see how this particular load balancer is distributing the traffic to this particular backend servers. Okay, to do this lab, okay, probably I'll take one more architecture diagram here. Let's say I'll say Azure load balancer. I'll go here. Yeah, probably I can take any one of these particular diagrams. Okay, just make sure that you understand it properly. Yeah, so this is how. Let's say for example, if you have a two VMs, okay, wherein your application is up and running, by keeping a load balancer on top of it, okay, if somebody try to access this web application, so we can access the web application using the load balancer front end IP. Okay, we do not require any VMs public IP. Okay, so as soon as whenever you add these two VMs as a backend pool of your load balancer, okay, by default these VMs, okay, will take your load balancer public IP. So when you create a load balancer, okay, you will be assigning one front ending IP. If at all, if you wanted to access our application which are hosted on these two servers, you will be accessing using the load balancer public IP. And this particular load balancer, okay, works on this particular 5 tuple hash algorithm. Okay, so let's say whenever, okay, I have a multiple servers, right, and whenever a user try to access this application, okay, it has to distribute the traffic, right, equally and depend on some conditions. So these are the 5 tuple hash algorithms, that is source IP, source port, destination IP, destination port, and certain protocols. So based on that, whatever we define it here, it will distribute the incoming traffic to the healthy backend pools. Okay, so let's quickly go ahead and have a demo for this particular distributing the load to the load balancers. To do this demo, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a two VMs, and within these two VMs I'm going to enable the web server. We have seen, right, how to enable a web server on a Windows machine. And whenever you enable a web server, and whenever you try to log into that if you wanted to access the web server, okay, we'll access using the VM public IP. So when you copy that IP and put it in the browser, okay, you'll be able to see a sample web server. Similarly, okay, I'm going to do the same thing, and I will keep the load balancer on top of it, and we'll see how the traffic will be routed. So to do this demo, okay, let me go here. I'll create a two VMs very quickly. So here, okay, let me go ahead and create two VMs. So here I'm going to create a new resource group. I'll just name it as a load balancer RG. Okay, I'll say okay, and I'll just name it as a VM01, and I'm going to host it into East2S, and let me go with the Windows server here, and I'll go with this particular size, and let me create it. And before I go ahead and create this VM, okay, the one more thing, okay, which I need to discuss, it is about SKUs of the load balancers. So here we have a two types of SKUs. Okay, one is standard and uh, basic. Okay, so let me see where it is. Okay, let me put it in the Google Azure load balancer standard versus basic. Okay, let me quickly walk you through this particular SKUs. Yeah, standard load balancer as well as the basic load balancer. To explain these particular differences, okay, let me open a new window here. I'll open a new paint. So what will happen is, okay, let's say for example, this is my basic load balancer. Let's imagine that, and this is my standard load balancer. Okay, let's say here, okay, I'll name it as basic load balancer. LB is nothing but a load balancer, and this one I'll take it as a standard LB. Okay, let's keep it as only standard. So whenever I add VMs, okay, so as back and pull of my load balancer, okay, what I will do generally, let's say for example, I'll take two VMs here just to for the example. Okay, here also I'll take a two VMs. Okay, so the condition here is, if at all if I wanted to add these two VMs as my backend pool of my basic load balancer, these two VMs has to be in a same availability set. Okay, these two VMs has to be in a same availability set. That is AV set. I'll just simply name it as a AV set. That is availability set. But whereas in case of standard load balancer, it is not required. Okay, so that is one of the major difference. Okay, if at all if you wanted to add any multiple VMs, okay, as part of your load balancer backend pool, these VMs has to be in a same availability set. Okay, so let's say I'll put it this one. Okay, let's say this is VM1. I'll just name it as a VM1, and let me put it as a VM2. Okay, here also I'll just put it as a VM1, and let me keep it as a VM2. Okay, so this is one of the major difference, okay, when you go with a basic and standard load balancer. So when you wanted to add a multiple VMs as a backend pool of your load balancer, in case of basic load balancer, all the VMs, how many VMs you wanted to add, those VMs has to be in a single availability set. But whereas in case of standard load balancer, it is not required. And when you go with a basic load balancer, okay, here okay, it is free. Okay, and the when you go with the standard load balancer, okay, the prices will be occurred, okay, based on the traffic. Okay, it's a premium one. And here as a backend pool, okay, you can add up to only 300 VMs. Okay, so when I if I have a 300 servers, and I can just distribute the traffic, okay, by adding this particular basic load balancer, but these 300 VMs has to be in a single availability set. But whereas here, in case of premium, that is standard load balancer, I think we can add up to only 1000 VMs as a backend pool of your load balancer. Okay, so these are the common major three differences. Okay, I'll quickly repeat it again. Okay, so I'll just simply say Azure load balancer basic versus standard. So this is very important, guys. Okay, I have seen in many interviews, okay, they definitely ask you this question when you talk about the load balancer. So this is the major difference. So when you go with a basic load balancer as a backend pool, we can add up to only two VMs as a back. I mean, we can add a up to 300 VMs as a backend pool, and the prerequisite is these 300 VMs, okay, should be an part of single availability set. Even if you add a two VMs also, those two VMs has to be part of single availability set. But whereas in case of standard load balancer, that is not required. And the basic load balancer is free and it is like a paid one. And here we can add up to only 300 VMs. Okay, in case of standard load balancer, we can add up to only 1000 VMs. Okay, this is the difference you could here could see. Okay, standard load balancer and basic load balancer. Okay, so backend pool sizes, it will support up to 1000 instances. Instance is nothing but a VM, and it supports up to 300 instances. Okay, so backend pool endpoints. Okay, you can see some of the additional benefits here. Okay, and I told about, it is free and paid, right? Okay, somewhere you could see here. And when do we use and other things? Let me quickly see the pricing here. I think it is not mentioned here. Okay, so when you go to the pricing, okay, you'll get to know. Okay, let me go to the pricing here. Okay, here goes it. For the standard load balancer, okay, it will be costing you, okay, these many things. Okay, so it depends on the rules that you create. Okay, so we'll see what are the rules, okay, that we are going to create now. So let me go here to the portal. Okay, so first, okay, I'll create the VMs, then okay, I'll come back to the creating the load balancer. So now I just initiate some of the things, okay, and make sure that I will go with the basic load balancer. So for that, okay, I need to create a one availability set here. So I'll go to the availability options. Okay, I'll create a one availability set, and here I'm creating an availability set, and I'll just name it as test AV. Okay, I'm going with the default file domain as well as the update domains. Okay, so let me create this view. So which is still validating. Okay, I'll check it. So now I'm done with creating my VM1. Okay, so considering this example, I just created one VM1 and I'll create a VM2 also. These two VMs, okay, I'm creating in a single availability set. So after creating these VMs, what I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and enable the web server on top of these two VMs. Okay, and I will add some content also. Like this is VM1 or this is VM2, just to see okay how the topic is routing when I add them as a backend pool of my load balancer. So similarly, let me quickly go ahead and create a one more VM. I'll name that VM as a VM2. Okay, I'm going to choose the same resource group, that is load balancer RG, and I'll just name this as a VM02. And for availability, okay, I go to availability set and I will choose the existing availability set, because the requirement is I need to create a two any whenever you create a multiple VMs, even it is a two or a three, so I need to keep them into the single availability set. Since I have already created a one availability set called test AV, I'm just choosing the existing availability set. Make sure that it should be in the same region, and I'm going with the same sizes. And let me give my usernames here. Okay, and the test of the details, okay, I'm going with the defaults. And I think coming back to the networking also, these are all VMs has to be in the same network. Okay, yeah, so they're creating in a same network. Okay, so load balancer RG, which was created earlier, so they're creating in a same network. Great, let's go ahead and deploy them. So consider things this example also. Let's say if I go to overview of my load balancer. Okay, so this is your entire network. Okay, if you see, this is entire in your network. So within your network, you will be creating a VMs and load balancer also. Make sure that whenever you wanted to add a VMs, okay, the VMs and the load balancer should be in a same network. So I'll come back here. I'll just say initiate, create it. So now considering my example to test my load balancer, okay, how the load is distributed into two among these two servers. So I have created two VMs, and now I will log into these VMs, okay, and I will enable the web server just to test it. I'll go here. I'll go to my VM1, which is already present. Okay, this is my VM1, and I'll log into this VM by just taking an RDP. I'll say RDP. and let me choose the different names. I'll say Azure user. Okay, I'll say yes. So now I log into the VM, and now I need to enable the web server. So let's wait for this particular VM to be load. Yeah, VM is ready. So can somebody tell me how can I enable the web server?
Add roles and features.
Yeah, we can go with the add roles in future, and I can also do it okay using the PowerShell command also. Okay, for now I'll go with the PowerShell command. Okay, what is the command? Anybody remembered? Wait, it is still loading. Anyone remember? Okay, so what is the command to? What is the name of the future?
Web server.
Okay, is it a Windows web server or a normal web server?
Normal web server. Web iPhone. Web
Okay.
iPhone server.
Web iPhone.
Server
Okay, and which includes all the
management tools.
yeah management tools. So this is the basic command. Okay, to enable the web server. So what will happen whenever you enable the web server? So here, okay, within your C drive, okay, how do you validate whether the web server is enabled or not? So when you go to the C drive, so here, okay, you'll be having a folder called initpub, right? So at this moment, okay, I don't have this particular folder called initpub. So once I'm done with this particular installation, okay, I'll able to see that. Let's see that now. Okay, can you see now? Now it is started, installing this particular web server. So we can do that adding a roles in future. You are right, Hepzibah, but we can also do it, okay, using PowerShell. So here you could see once it is done with almost like a 80 to 90%, okay, you will be able to see a specific folder called initpub here. So let's wait for this to be enabled. And which is almost done. And can you see, I see a separate folder called initpub, which is enabled. Okay, today's okay. It is like a server time. Okay, here you could see 455. So let me open this particular folder. And when you enable a web server, these are the default folders we'll be having: www root, temp, log, history, and cluster. And here you could see which is succeeded. So let me go ahead. Let me go to this particular HTML document, and I will add some content here. Okay, I'll say open with the notepad, and as a header, okay, so I'll just name this header as okay. Okay, so welcome to Azure. I'll just add one more thing like this is VM01. Okay, I'll just okay added one header. Okay, and I just mentioned as this is VM01. If at all if I wanted to access my web server, the first and foremost thing is I need to enable the port number 80 also. Okay, let me go ahead and add a port here, and here from the service, okay, I need to take that HTTP port, and I'll say allow it. Okay, so without enabling the port 80, okay, you will be not able to access the web server because your web server will be running on a port 80. Okay, here you could see I just added a port called HTTP port, that is port 80. If I copy this VM public IP now and if I put it here, okay, I should be able to see the default web server at the default web page. What I have it here. Let's say if I go here, so this is the default web page I have. That is like Windows Server. So if you change this image, okay, you will be able to see the same image there. Okay, so let me come back here. Let me put my IP here again. Can you see now? Okay, whatever the content I have added. Welcome to Azure. This is VM01. So I'm good with my VM1. Okay, I just created one sample VM and I have enabled a web server. And within this web server, I have a sample HTML page. Okay, which has a sample website. That is like sample web server website. If you wanted to have any additional websites, okay, you can go ahead and edit those particular files. Let me close it. So I'm good with my VM1. Similarly, let me go to my VM2. I'll do refresh here. And this is my VM2. And for my VM2 also, let me quickly go ahead and enable the web server. I'll take an RDP of my vision. Here, okay, what I'm doing, I'm hosting my website. Okay, so by just enabling the web server, so I'm going with the default web server there. Okay, there I have a sample website called web server, okay, from the Microsoft. So here, okay, I'll say yes. So now I log into this mission again, and I'll try to enable the web server here also, and I'll add some more content. Okay, so let me close it. So I'll open my PowerShell window. This is my PowerShell. So what is the command again to enable the web server? Just now we have seen install hyphen.
Windows feature.
Okay, so you can just have win and you can just give the tab. Okay, it will be auto filled. Okay, so install hyphen Windows future. Okay, what is the name?
Web server.
Web hyphen server, and which includes the all the management.
Manage. Yes.
Click on enter. So now it will start enabling your web server. Okay, so if you wanted to validate it, so you can go back to your directory here, go to C drive, and within the C drive you should be able to see a separate folder called initpub. So I do not have it now. So once it is done, okay, you'll be able to see it here. And here also, once it is done, okay, so I'll go to my sample HTML document what I have there. Okay, and I will just add some more content, okay, just to differentiate my both of my VMs. Okay, and here you could see I have the initpub folder. So let me go here, and here you could see this is my www root, and this is my sample HTML document. So whatever the content we have, right? Okay, that is displayed here. Okay, as part of your website. Okay, let me come back here. So this is my sample website, by the way. So here I'll go ahead and modify something, okay, to my website, okay, and my VM2. And if you replay this particular image, okay, so whatever the image that you keep, okay, will be coming here. Let me try to take some different image here. Let's see how it looks like. Let's say I'll say happy Diwali image. Okay, fine. Let me take any one of these sample image. Okay, let's say I'll save this image. Okay, I'll say happy Diwali. Okay, I'll put it in a desktop. I'll save it. Now what I will do is, okay, I'll copy this image. I'll go back to my web server, and here I'll replace. So make sure, okay, I need to rename this particular image with the same name what I have, that is IIS start. So not to duplicate, okay, so what I will do is, okay, I'll rename this first. I'll copy this name, I'll delete it. And if I go here and if I do refresh, okay, I have to put the same name because, okay, my HTML document, okay, will be referring this particular image. Now if I go to my web server, I replaced my this thing, right? I think, oh, it is taking a different network altogether. Fine, I think it is creating using the different NSG. Okay, let me add a port here 80 here also. Okay, that is HTTP port. I'll say add it. Now if I go ahead and access my website, whatever the image I have kept, right, that will be displayed. Let's see that now. I'm copying my VM2 IP and I'll go here and I'll click on enter. And since I have changed the image now, okay, so that is Happy Diwali. That image will be displayed here as part of your website. Okay, I think let's see here. Did I made any mistake? IAS start. Could be okay. The size of this image, okay, might be more. Okay, that's the reason. Okay, it is not allowing. So let me try to do something. Okay, can you see here it is only 98 KB. Okay, here I have almost like 124 KB. Let me try to see this one. Okay, it is like this. Let me try to minimize this a bit. I'll edit it. So I think I do not have option to edit it here. I'll do it here and I'll copy paste there. I'll say edit and I'll do resize. Let me keep it some 800. Okay, and I'll save it. And if I go to my sizes, let me do alt enter. So it will give the size. It is still 144 KB. Let me do some more resize. I'll keep it as 600 something. Okay, this is good now. Okay, if I wanted to see the properties, okay, somewhere around 100 KB. Fine. So let me copy this again to my web server. Here I'm on the web server. I need to name it as a IAS start. Okay, let me keep the same name. And it is a PNG file. It is a JPG file. Okay, that could be one of the reason also. So probably what I will do is I'll say IIS start.png. Okay, and let me remove this. But still it is a JPG file only. Let's try. Okay. Yeah. If I go here, if I try to refresh my web server, okay, I'll come back here and let me do refresh. Strange. Ideally, it should come whatever the image that you replace. Maybe let me convert that image into PNG, JPG to PNG converter. So maybe because of image version also, okay, sometimes okay, it will not appear here. I'll go to my desktop and I think this is the one. Okay, I'll say download all. Let me go here. I'll say extract here. I have a PNG file now. I'll copy it. I'll come back here. I'll replace. Okay, let me delete the existing one and I'll name it as IIS start. Okay, let's try this now. I'll go to my web server. This is my web server and let me try to do. Can you see now? I'm able to see my whatever the image I have kept it. It is because of image version. Okay, within the website. Okay, so could be sometimes okay whatever the HTML format I had, right? Okay, it might not support the different format images. And this is my another website. Okay, that is VM02, which has the Diwali symbols like this. Okay, the VM1 is having a sample, welcome to Azure. This is my VM01, and this is the image. Okay, what by we have as a default, but for my VM2, I just changed my image. So now I have the two websites, okay, which are ready, and now I need to distribute the load. Okay, when I try to access my website, okay, that load has to be distributed. Okay, for that, okay, I'm going to create a load balancer. Okay, let me try to create a load balancer. So this is a load balancer. Okay, so with the built-in load balancer for the cloud services and the virtual machines, you can create a highly available and scalable applications in a minute. So why do we use the load balancers? Okay, this is the advantage. Okay, to have a high available and scalable applications. Okay, so let's say I'll create a load balancer here, and I have to choose the same resource group. Okay, I'll go with the same. Make sure that the region and the network everything should be same. And here I'll just name it as a test LB, that is load balancer. Okay, so here, okay, we have seen, right, these are the two different SKUs, standard as well as the basics. So we have discussed about, okay, the difference between basic load balancer and a standard load balancer already. Okay, so these are the basic differences. Okay, and I'll go with the basic at this moment. And anyways, okay, I'm going to use the public load balancer, not the internal load balancer. And now on the next step, I need to create a front-end IP. So whenever I access my website, okay, I will be using this particular front-end IP. So let me create a one front-end IP here. So let's say I'll name it as a test LB public IP. Okay, and I will be creating a new one, and I'll just name it as test pub IP. I'll say okay, and I'll add it. So now I've created my front-end IP, and now I need to add my backend pools. When I click on add, so it will display, I can say test BP, that is backend pool, and I need to choose the network. And within this network, I have I can see what I can add as a backend pool. Okay, I can choose the virtual machine, and here when I click on add, I'm able to see the both the missions. Let me choose the both of the missions, that is VM1, VM02. So I'm able to add these two VMs because they are in a single availability set. When you go with a basic load balancer, so if you wanted to add a multiple VMs, those VMs has to be in a same availability set. That is very important. Let me click on add. I'm done with the adding the backend pools. Okay, let me click on add. Done with the creating a front-end IP, done with adding backend pools. Now, so this inbound rules, okay, everything I'll create later. Even outbound rules, okay, I'll create later. So for now, let's say I'll go create add and review and create it. So after creating a load balancer, okay, I'll show you how we can create those rules. It is still in progress. So now what I just done is like, considering this example, I have created two VMs and I have enabled the web server on top of on these two VMs, and I have created these two VMs in the same availability set. And now I just created a load balancer and I have added these two VMs as a backend pool of the load balancer. Okay, so if I wanted to access access an application hosted on this particular servers, I should be able to access using the load balancer front-end IP. Here, just now I have created one front-end IP, right? So when I click on that IP in a browser, the traffic will be routed either VM1, either VM2, based on the certain rules. So we haven't created certain those rules now. So I'll go ahead and create it now. So I'll go to the resource, that is load balancer. Here you could see. So these are the configurations: front-end IP, backend pools, health probe, and load balancing rules. So these are the things, okay, we are going to create now. So now this is a front-end IP, so which we have already created, and we have also added the backend pools. So as a backend pool, we have added a VMs. So while creating itself, okay, you can do it. If not, okay, after creating also you can come back and you can add it also. Now I need to create a one health probe, okay, to route the traffic. So let me create a health probe here, and this health probe name, I'll just name it as a test HP, that is health probe. And here the protocol is TCP protocol and the port number is 80 because my incoming traffic is coming on a port 80, right? Because okay, if you see here, this particular web server, okay, is running on the port 80. Okay, so now let's say I'll come back here. So there is a port I need to keep it here, and interval. Okay, so what it does is, okay, what this particular health probe does is, so for every 5 seconds, okay, it will try to hit the VM. Okay, let's say for example, when I try to use my load balancer front end IP to access this particular web application, so for every 5 seconds, okay, it will try to route the topic, okay, to the first server. Okay, if the first server, okay, get a 2 consecutive failures, okay, that is an unhealthy threshold, we call it is. If this particular first server doesn't respond for 2 times, by default traffic will be routed to the another server. Similarly, so again, okay, it will try to route the traffic to this particular server, and if this particular server if doesn't respond, by default, okay, it will be routed traffic to the another server. So by having these two, this health probe, okay, so it will check the health of the server. Okay, it will hit the server for every 5 seconds. If it doesn't respond for if it gets okay continuous, 2 failures, by default it will route the traffic to the another server. So this is the health probe. Okay, so the front end API I'm accessing on a port 80, and I'll add it now. So once I'm done with the health probe, I also need to create a load balancing rules also. So if at all, if you wanted to create a load balancing rules, okay, I need to have a health probe. So let's wait for this to be done. If I go to the test health probe, okay, here you could see I just created one health probe. Now let me go ahead and add the load balancing rules. Okay, I'll add a load balancing rule now. So here, okay, I'll keep the end-to-end pronoun. So I'll say test LB rule. Okay, and this is my front end IP. Okay, so my front end IP is IPv4 IP, not the IPv6. And when I access my front end IP on a port 80, okay, so this particular IP, when I use the port 80, okay, the traffic should be routed to the backend port. Okay, backend port also I'm using port 80, right? So these are the backend servers, and these servers also, able to receive the traffic on port 80 only, not any other port. So I'll say here, I'll come back here, and I'll keep the front end port and backend port as the same, and I need to choose my backend pool. So this is the test, backend pool I have created, and this is the health probe I have created. So now what will happen is when I take this particular IP, okay, this IP by default running on a port 80. Okay, when I hit it, what it does is first it will check the health probe. Sorry, this is the health probe. So this health probe, what we have kept the condition there for every 5 seconds, it will try to hit the servers whatever we have in a backend pool. So here we have added two servers as a backend pool. First it will try to hit the first server. If it doesn't respond for 2 times for every 5 seconds, by default traffic will be routed to the another server. Okay, and session persistence is nothing but, okay, so let's say uh, for example, I have two servers here. Let's imagine I'll give one scenario here. So I have two servers here, and this server, okay, this application is like filling some form. Let's imagine. Okay, so when I access my application, by default traffic is routed to my VM1. So here I'm filling my some application. Okay, it has something like a 20 lines. Okay, at the 15th line, my VM got refreshed or it is stopped responding. And that time what will happen? By default, okay, the traffic will be routed to the another server, right? And when it reaches the another server, what will happen? What will happen? So whatever the content I fill it here, it should appear here also. Okay, it should have some catching mechanism to not to waste my time. Okay, whatever the work I'm doing it here, it should reflect here also, so that we can achieve it, okay, using this particular session persistence. Okay, so by using certain client IP or some protocols, so you can do that. So for now I'm not doing that, and here you could see how we can ideal timeouts and everything you can set it. So for now, let's just for the sample demo, I'll just go ahead and click and add it now. And by default, when I add this particular VMs as a backend pool of my load balancer, if you go ahead and check your VMs public IPs, so by default, okay, both the VMs will be having a same public IP because I have added them as my backend pool of my load balancer. Let me show you it here. If I go to my VMs, okay, if I go to my VM1, okay, my VM has a IP called 39214. If I go to my VM2 also, Okay, it has a 39.214. It is an IP of my load balancer. If I go to the overview page, okay, I think it is loading. Let's see the front end IP here. Can you see 39.214? So by default, okay, so the VMs will be added with the same load balancer IP now. So let me test it this particular IP now. I'll copy this IP. This is a front end IP, right? So when I access this particular IP, the traffic should route it to the different servers. Okay, I'll open the incognito window. I'll just paste it here. So can you see here this time, okay, by default, the traffic is routed to the second server now. Okay, so now what I will do is, okay, I'll try to do refresh. Okay, and the traffic is still routing to the second server. Now what I will do is I'll go ahead and stop my server 2. So this is my VM2, right? I'll stop it. So when I stop my VM, what will happen? Okay, the web server will also not respond. So if I go ahead and do refresh, what will happen is it is trying to hit the server 2 itself, and server 2 is not responding now. Okay, service is unavailable. Okay, 500 error. That means your server is not healthy. That means server is not unavailable. If I do refresh, so by default, okay, the traffic will be routed to the VM1. Oh, it is replicated on both the VMs. Cool. Okay, if you see here, the traffic is routed to the VM1. Okay, similarly, now if I go here, so let me do refresh. I think this operand still is in progress. It is still deallocating. So it will, how many times, okay, you refresh, okay, the traffic will be keep, routing to the VM1 only, because my VM2 is in a stop mode. Now what I will do is I'll start my VM1, sorry, VM2 now. Okay, so I just initiated the starting my VM2. Now I'll go ahead and, stop my VM1. Okay, so currently my traffic is on a VM1. So when I stop my VM1 now, okay, it will go to the, unavailable state. Okay, so let me do refresh. Can you see VM1 also is coming as a service is unavailable. Now if I do refresh, by default again traffic is routed back to the server 2, because my server 2 I just started. So this is how, okay, how we can route your incoming traffic to the multiple backend pools. Okay, so when you host in our application on multiple servers, okay, so we can just simply route your traffic, incoming traffic to multiple server, so that, okay, end users will get, will not get any latency issues or any downtime issues, and you can provide a high availability for your web application. Okay, so that is the advantage of having a load balancer. So for today, okay, probably today is a Friday, right? So maybe you can just take this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, start practicing this particular load balancer. Okay, so we just discussed about the public load balancer now, creating a load balancer, adding, multiple VMs. So here, okay, they have a 3 VMs as example. You can add one more VM also if at all if you wanted. And when you go with the basic load balancer, make sure that those VMs are in a same availability set. Okay, if you go with the standard load balancer, that is not that is not required. So this is the internal load balancer we use it for the routing the traffic to the backend databases. Okay, so you can try with using portal. The same thing you can try using PowerShell also. Probably very recent past. Okay, I'm not concentrating much on a PowerShell. I'm hoping that you are doing it. Okay, here you could see creating a standard queue and a basic queue. So when you go with the basic queue load balancer, see whatever the VMs they are adding, they are in a same availability set. But in case of standard, it is not required. Okay, so this is it. I wanted to cover it for today. Okay, about load balancer. So just take this as a lab and try to do it. I'll say the required documents also. So if you have any questions, probably can ask now. Let me stop my recording.